He slid the document across the table like he was handing me a menu. "Time to retire, Bobby," Frank said. But it wasn't retirement. It was an ambush. My own brother. 45 years of building this company together. And now he's sitting beside his son, Daniel, offering me a severance package disguised as a buyout. $400,000. For half of a company we both knew was worth over $6 million. "You'll still be involved," Daniel said, voice slick, rehearsed. "As a consultant, a mascot, for the company I poured my life into." What I didn't know, not yet, was that Daniel had already been stealing from me, and Frank had helped him. This wasn't a transition. It was a heist. Stick around, because when I took them to court, what came out in testimony destroyed everything they'd built. Subscribe if you believe family doesn't get a free pass for betrayal. We started with a single truck, a dented Ford F-100 with a ladder rack, a dent in the door, and just enough gas to make it from Van Nuys to Northridge and back. No clients, no money, just Frank, me, and a toolbox we shared like it was holy. We called it Morrison Brothers Construction, not because we had a plan, but because we were brothers, and we built. That was enough. Every job we did side by side. We hung drywall in summer heat so bad your hands would blister, tiled kitchens until midnight, fixed pipes in Brentwood crawl spaces that smelled like dead rats and mold. Then we'd go back to Frank's house, shower with a hose in the backyard, split a beer, and fall asleep on the couch watching Lakers reruns. We never needed contracts between us, just eye contact. We knew what the other meant with a single nod. That's how tight we were. We built something real. Grew from 2 guys and a toolbox to 40 employees, office in Burbank, vans all over Los Angeles County with our name on the side. And not once did I think he'd turn on me. Not after all that. Not after 45 years of blood, sweat, and concrete. But what does it mean when a man like that, your own brother, decides you're worth more erased than respected? Daniel walked into our Burbank office like he'd been born into it. Fresh out of USC's business school, resume printed on linen paper, and a look in his eyes like he was already scouting where to hang his name on the wall. He shook hands like a politician, called me Uncle Bobby, like we were still at backyard barbecues. But I saw it, even then, behind that perfect white smile, something colder. Daniel didn't come to join the company. He came to take it. At first, it was harmless talk. "You guys need a digital presence. Your overhead's out of date. We could be doing double the volume if we streamlined ops." Buzzwords, spreadsheets. He brought in software we didn't need and vendors we didn't know. Frank loved it. Ate it up like a man starving for relevance. "He's just trying to help," Frank said. But we'd built this place with hammers, not hyperlinks. Then came the meetings, ones I wasn't invited to. Calabasas, late nights. Frank started showing up to job sites with Daniel's notes in hand, asking why our Pasadena subcontractor hadn't been replaced. I asked him, "Since when do we take orders from your son?" He didn't answer, just walked off. Family dinners got quiet. Daniel was always at the head of the table, talking about capital efficiency, while I poured wine and looked around, realizing no one was listening to me anymore. Frank stopped asking what I thought, stopped looking me in the eye. That's when I felt it. Not just change. Intrusion. Invasion. How do you protect what you've built when the enemy doesn't kick down the door but walks in through your bloodline? They called it a board meeting, but it wasn't. There were only 2 owners, me and Frank. Always had been. So when I walked into that Burbank conference room and saw Daniel standing at the head of the table with a PowerPoint clicker in hand, I knew something was off. The lights were dimmed. Frank was already seated, quiet, eyes down. Daniel smiled like a man unveiling a product launch, and I wasn't the audience. I was the product. "This is our restructuring plan," Daniel said, like he was speaking to a class of undergrads. Slide after slide, he broke down our company's future: streamlined leadership, strategic handoff, generational transition. My name was never mentioned, not once. I raised my hand like I was some employee needing permission. And what exactly is my role in this new vision? Frank cleared his throat. You'd move into a consultant position, step back from day to day, still be involved, of course. Daniel interrupted. As a valued consultant. That word again. Valued. The way you say valued before showing someone the door. Then came the offer. A 10-year buyout. $400,000 for my half. I laughed out loud. You think the company's worth less than $1 million? Daniel straightened his tie. We used a third-party valuation. Then let me see it. He smiled again, tight, smug. It's proprietary. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't about succession. This was an extraction. They weren't asking me to step aside. They were already standing on my back. What do you do when the people you trusted most look you in the eye and tell you that everything you built no longer belongs to you? I didn't shout, didn't flip the table, didn't storm out of that room in Burbank. I nodded, picked up the folder they'd pre-printed with the company logo, like this was some formality, and I walked out. Because I knew the next move wasn't rage, it was reconnaissance. I called a name I'd heard whispered in courtrooms downtown: Patricia Hernandez, forensic accountant, the kind who could find money buried under 10 layers of shell companies. She didn't blink when I laid it all out. You suspect fraud? She asked. No, I said. I suspect theft, organized, ongoing, by my brother and his son. She got to work. Weeks of combing through bank statements, internal transfers, and project expenses that didn't add up. She traced everything, and what she found nearly made me sick. 3 years ago, Daniel started funneling funds to a shell company, Westside Development Solutions, fake consulting fees, inflated expenses, on jobs we'd already completed, $800,000 gone and disappeared into fake line items and vague service contracts. And Frank had signed off on every single one. My brother, the man I bled next to in the summer heat. I was signing away my legacy like it was nothing but paperwork. When you uncover the truth, and it's worse than you imagined, do you go to war or do you walk away? He asked to meet at a Starbucks in Studio City, like we were just two old friends trying to patch something up. I sat across from him at the back table near the windows. Frank looked tired, worn down in a way that wasn't physical. Guilt wears heavy on a man, especially when he still thinks he can buy silence. He slid a sealed envelope across the table as if it were sacred. I don't want this to get messy, Bobby. It's already messy. Daniel made mistakes. You signed the checks. He didn't deny it, just looked at me with those same eyes I used to trust. Eyes that once matched mine in the mirror after a hard day's work. I opened the envelope. 1 million, a check, pre-written. You walk away, clean, no lawyers, no court. We let it all go. He actually believed I'd take it. He thought money could replace memory, could rewrite the foundation of what we built. I looked at him and said it slowly. You don't buy me out of my own life. You stole from me. You chose your son over your partner. There's no check big enough to fix that. He leaned forward, voice low. You're gonna destroy everything we built. I stood up. No, you did that the second you handed him the keys. I'm just making sure the world sees the wreckage. I left the envelope untouched. What happens when blood ties snap and all that's left is justice? The court doesn't feel like justice. It feels like exposure. Every word dissected, every dollar accounted for, every betrayal dragged into the light, no matter how personal it once was. Frank and Daniel sat at the defendant's table, stone-faced, matching suits, matching stories, until Patricia Hernandez took the stand. 2 days. She walked the court through it all. Invoices to ghost companies. Payments are routed through shell accounts. Consulting fees that went to Westside Development Solutions, a company they owned. She didn't just prove theft, she proved intent. A systematic, engineered plan to drain the company, make it look less valuable so their buyout offer would seem fair. $800,000 siphoned off, and me, written out of my own legacy. Then came the judge, 20 years on the bench. Didn't blink once while Frank tried to frame it as protecting Daniel's future. She leaned forward, voice like steel. You secured your son's future by stealing from your brother? The brother who built this company with you for 45 years? Mr. Morrison, I've seen a lot of things in this courtroom, but family betrayal of this magnitude is particularly disturbing. Frank shrinking, eyes wet. Shame, not sorrow. And Daniel? Just stared at the floor. No more buzzwords, just the sound of a legacy collapsing. The ruling was swift. They'd buy me out at market value, $3.2 million, return the stolen $800,000, cover all my legal fees, plus damages, over $5 million. To pay it, they had to gut the company, sell equipment, fire good men. Daniel's Marina del Rey condo? Gone. Frank's Calabasas pride? Mortgaged. They kept the name. But it was empty now. A shell with a billboard. If justice costs your enemy everything, do you still call it revenge or balance? I used the money to start over, not out of spite, out of necessity. Morrison Construction Services, Glendale, not flashy, not big, just honest. I rehired the guys who'd stuck by me. We're working out of a small office now, not far from that first garage in Van Nuys. Feels familiar, feels clean. We picked up a few solid contracts in Pasadena, another in Silver Lake. The work is steady. The numbers are clean. No fake invoices. No shady partnerships. Just real jobs. Real trust. Meanwhile, Morrison Brothers Construction, the original, is a shadow. I drove past the Burbank office last week. The sign is still up, but faded now. The parking lot was half empty. Through the window, I saw him. Frank. At the same desk, looking older than 74, alone. Maybe going through bills. Perhaps just remembering what we used to be. I didn't feel satisfaction, didn't feel victory. Just this cold clarity. Like standing in the ruins of a house you once loved and realizing someone else burned it down. What does it really mean to win when the price was watching your family destroy itself from the inside out? A month after the verdict, I got a letter, postmarked from Burbank. No return address, but I knew the handwriting. Frank had driven 20 minutes out of Calabasas to send it. Didn't want it traced to him, I guess. Still thinking in back doors and cover stories. The letter was short. 5 lines. Said I'd destroyed the family legacy. That Mom and Dad would have been ashamed of me. That I'd burned down 45 years over money. I sat with it for hours. Read it 5, 6 times. He still didn't understand. This wasn't about money. This was about truth, about betrayal you don't come back from. So I wrote him back. 1 page, no threats, no venom, just clarity. You destroyed the legacy the moment you decided Daniel's inheritance meant more than our partnership. I just turned on the lights so people could see what you'd done. And don't you dare bring up Mom and Dad. They taught us to work hard, to be honest, to stand by our word. You forgot all of that. They'd be ashamed of you, Frank, not me. What kind of man writes back when there's nothing left to fix, only the need to set the record straight? Last week, I drove past the old Burbank office one more time, the same window, the same desk. Frank was there again, but I didn't slow down, didn't stare, didn't wave, because I wasn't going back. There's nothing behind me worth saving, not anymore. I had a meeting in Pasadena, minor contract, gut renovation on a craftsman near the Arroyo. Nothing flashy, not seven figures, but honest. My guys were already there, on site, laughing, working, sweating like we used to. That's what I've got now. No lies, no games, just work that means something. Frank kept the name. He can have it. I kept the part that mattered, my word, my people, my integrity. And that kind of legacy? You don't need a logo for that. You build it brick by brick, every time you choose what's right over what's easy. So if you've ever had someone try to take what you built, don't just fight back, fight clean. Because revenge, that's temporary. But integrity, that's permanent. Subscribe if you know what it means to hold the line, even when the knife comes from your own family.